breaking on an independent, united kingdom.
Meanwhile, we have young girls being beaten and raped, then ignored, labelled liars, and left defenceless because they're white.
I'm Dare Prince, on behalf of Autolycus, our Greek correspondent, bringing you the latest developments from January the 8th through the 15th. This is the Europa Report. Germany has been shocked at the exposure of the massive criminal nature of the non-white refugee invasion, with police making dozens of arrests, recovering stolen cell phones in invader centers, and seizing numerous Arabic-German translation guides prepared especially for use in lewd interactions with German women. The most shocking discovery, that of several written lists of Arabic-German phrases to be used by the refugee criminals when speaking to German women, definitively proves that the mass sex attacks were pre-planned and organized by the non-whites. One of the notes, obtained and released by the Bild newspaper, was found on one of the arrested refugees shortly after midnight on Breslauer Platz behind the Cologne Central Station. It contained a list of phrases to be used in both German and Arabic, giving its readers instructions on how to say things like, "I kill you," "I want to fuck," and "big breasts." In addition, the Bild reported that many of the arrested non-white invaders had cell phones with videos of their mass sex attacks on white women, showing in shocking detail the group nature of the events. The police found 350 hours of video material, and the 80-member strong investigation team has had to be increased to 100 to cope, a police spokesman said. It is expected that these videos will be released during upcoming trials. Disaffection in the German populace seems to be growing by the day as more than 1,700 police, under orders from the German government, turned out to halt a 3,000-strong Pegida demonstration in Cologne city center today, a marked contrast to the paltry 150 officers who were sent to the same venue to counter the non-white refugee criminal attacks on New Year's Eve. The thousands who took part in the Pegida demonstration were of all ages and sexes, contrary to controlled media coverage. The crowd chanted, among other things, "Merkel has to go and Rieker has to go," a reference to the mayoress of Cologne. Among the crowd, many German flags were to be seen, along with the old black, white, and red flag of the World War I era and the Crusader flag. While media attention was focused on the dramatic Pegida rally in Cologne on Saturday, no less than 8 other anti-invasion rallies, all using the refugee criminal mass sex attacks as their theme, took place in Belgium, Austria, France, and Germany over the last 2 days. One of the first ever Pegida demonstrations in the Belgian city of Antwerp took place without incident in the city center at the historical Hendrik Conscience Square. The meeting was addressed by prominent Vlaams Belang politician Philip de Winter and Edwin Wagensveld, the Dutch Pegida leader. Also in attendance was the founder of Pegida, Lutz Bachmann. Speakers called for the banishment of Islam and the closure of Belgium's borders, all citing the crime and terror threat posed by the non-white invasion. Meanwhile, in the German-Austrian border town of Freilassing, the patriotic 1% or 1% movement held its second demonstration in a row against what it had called the madness of open borders. Following the non-white mass sex attacks in several European cities on New Year's Eve, a steady stream of reports are now coming in of never-ending sex crimes being committed all over Germany by asylum seekers invited into that country by Angela Merkel. Ordinary patriotic citizens, realizing the inability of the state to protect them, resort to methods of self-defense and self-organization. Grateful German women snapped up boxes of pepper spray handed out by activists from the German identitarian movement in the Saxony-Anhalt town of Halle today in a powerful political propaganda act that the organization hopes is emulated everywhere in the country. The pepper spray giveaway took place at noon at the Rijwickplatz, which is Halle's largest central transportation hub with at least 52 trains passing through every hour at peak times. According to the Identitarian Facebook report on the event, the quote, "action is a response to the unprecedented wave of sexual assaults on women by asylum seekers on New Year's Eve. What happened in Cologne is happening everywhere," they continued, adding that there had been attempted rapes by invaders only the day before. "We want to help ensure that women can continue to feel safe in our town. We received many friendly words, smiles, and encouragement for this action. Thanks for that," the Facebook post read. In a more decisive manner, German patriots, pushed to the point of no return by the endless wave of sex and criminal acts on white women and girls in Cologne and the surrounding areas, have started to strike back with coordinated attacks upon non-white invaders in the city's streets. According to an official Cologne police press conference held in the city center this afternoon, 4 separate attacks on asylum seekers took place on the evening of Sunday, January the 10th. According to an earlier press statement released on Sunday, the Cologne police said that they had received information that there were groups of people who were deliberately seeking confrontations in the city center. Also, an impromptu group which the paper described as rockers, bouncers, and hooligans organized themselves on Facebook to go into the center of Cologne on a manhunt in retaliation for the mass sex attacks on New Year's Eve. Indicative of the inability of the German elite to manage the situation is that Angela Merkel has formally admitted that her government and the EU have lost control of the non-white invasion situation as tens of thousands of Germans flock to join private street defense organizations in the face of the ongoing mass non-white refugee crime wave sweeping the country. Speaking before a meeting of German business leaders in Mainz near Frankfurt today, Merkel admitted for the first time that Europe was now vulnerable because of the non-white invasion. Now all of a sudden we are facing the challenge that refugees are coming to Europe and we are vulnerable, as we see, because we do not yet have the order, the control that we would like to have, she told her audience. That does not mean that she will not get trolled by her own party, as on January the 14th she received a busload of non-white invaders dumped on her office in Berlin, courtesy of a Bavarian district council leader who had threatened to undertake such an action in November last year. Peter Dreyer, a member of the Christian Democratic Union, or CDU, Merkel's own party, but elected as a Freie Wähler or independent district councillor in the town of Landshut, had earlier engaged in a furious half-hour telephone conversation with Angela Merkel on the topic. According to a report in the Die Welt newspaper, Dreyer had told Merkel that his district could not cope with the flood of invaders, and that he was going to send the excess directly to her office. Always ending on a positive and hopeful note, some senior members of the populist True Finns or TF party have broken ranks to publicly back the idea of civilian patrols in Finnish cities to prevent refugee sex attacks and related crime in that country, and one TF member of parliament has expressly said that there is nothing wrong with the Soldiers of Odin patrol group which is currently being smeared by the controlled media. According to their Facebook page, the Soldiers of Odin are a private group which is, quote, critical of immigration and seeks to safely patrol the streets of that country as the police's eyes and ears. The Daily Mail, for example, one of Britain's leading Lugan Presse outlets, described them in a January 13, 2016 article as a, quote, far-right vigilante group which was spreading fear after it had begun patrolling cities in Finland. Despite them having done nothing more than patrol in sub-freezing temperatures and helping out here and there with community and social projects, the controlled media in Finland and elsewhere in Europe have gone into a frenzy over the existence of the group, labeling them vigilantes. One of the group's founders in Kemi, Mikko Ronda, told Finnish media at the time that they had created the organization because, quote, we woke up to a situation where different cultures met. It caused fear and concern in the community. The biggest issue was when we learned from Facebook that new asylum seekers were hanging around primary schools taking pictures of young girls. Alright, that's all for today. Props again to Autolycus and thank you for listening. This has been the Europa Report.